All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria. From insecurity and economic hardship to political realignment and growing public frustrations, Nigerians are once again questioning leadership. But beyond the names and political parties lies a deeper question. Are we choosing the wrong leaders? Or are we using the wrong standards to choose them? Nigeria is taking, or is talking rather, and politicals, maybe Nigeria is just talking about political or politics again, and the race to 2027 is already taking shape, and political alliances are forming, old friendships are breaking, new coalitions are emerging, and everywhere you turn, there's another promise of change. But perhaps Nigerians are no longer asking the same question. The questions is no longer who wants to lead. The question now is, who can Nigeria truly trust to lead? Because for decades, the circle has remained familiar in terms of expectations, hope, election, disappointment, and then another search for hope, and we've been so renewed hope for a while. But today, many Nigerians, as we all know, are frustrated in terms of economic hardship, it continues, and insecurity remains a concern. Public trust is under pressure, and and citizens appear, increasingly skeptical of every political option before them. So perhaps the real issue is not politics. Perhaps it's about leadership itself. So are we choosing the wrong people, or are we rewarding the wrong qualities, or have we failed to define what good leadership actually looks like? Again, I welcome you to another interesting edition of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener, your executive producer, your chief host. I wear many hats, but my name remains Kike Lomo Atanda-Owo. I think it's time for us to hear what On This Day initial segment has for us. And when I return, I give my 2 cents on it. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. My takeaway from On This Day initial segment today, I think on this day in 2013, to be precise, Nigeria lost one of its most influential grassroots leaders. That's Elijah Abibatu Mogaji. For decades, she organized, mobilized, and represented thousands of market women across Nigeria. Her influence, did not come from political office, it came from leadership. And perhaps, today's reminder is very simple. Leadership is not defined by title. Leadership is defined by impact. I think that's my takeaway, looking back on this day in history segment and the role she played in it. I think it's important for us to go on a quick break to get a word from my sponsors. And when I return, I dive straight to the issue at hand. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Let's get straight into the conversation at hand. Every election season, Nigeria talks about candidates, we talk about parties, we talk about campaigns, but rarely do we stop and ask a deeper question. What exactly are we looking for in a leader? Because if leadership remains Nigeria's greatest challenge, then perhaps Leadership deserves a deeper conversation, one beyond political parties, beyond personalities, and of course, beyond campaign slogans. So the big question is the leadership question. Why do Nigerians keep losing faith in their leaders? Joining me today from Greater Manchester is a leadership scholar, governance expert, and of course, a researcher who has spent years studying leadership in institutions and of course public trust. But before we go into real talk with him, I think it's important for us to take a look at his profile. And when I return, I'll be speaking with him directly. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Let me quickly usher in my guest, Professor Christine Arison. It's a pleasure having you on Real Talk with Kike today. Many thanks for joining me via Zoom to lend your voice on issues that affect us. I hope I pronounced your name properly. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me, Kike? I'm here. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you so much, Kike. It's a pleasure to be here in Real Talk with Kike, so it's great.
Thank you for creating time to do this with me. So let's just start from the big questions. I don't know if you listened to my opening earlier. How did we get here? Every election cycle begins with hope and often ends with disappointment. Why does this cycle, keep repeating in Nigeria? Because many people say Nigeria's biggest problem is leadership. Others argue that leadership is simply a reflection of our society. So in your perspective, is leadership truly Nigeria's biggest challenge, or is it that it's just too, I don't know the word to use right now. Help us out. What's your take on this?
Okay, thank you very much, Kike. Of course, like I said, it's a pleasure to be here. I've of course heard so much about your program, and I'm so glad about the kind of things you're doing, and of course trying to contribute to the Nigerian sector. So well done. Of course, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because we know that we talk about leadership as a leadership expert, as a scholar of leadership, is so important. I always say that the issue is a leadership question, because at the end, the problem with Nigeria is we have a leadership challenge. That's the truth. There's a leadership challenge that we are facing. And it's not just, it becomes beyond leadership. To me, it has become an institutional challenge as well. So first, As we can see with what's happening right now, people are losing faith with with the leaders because the election comes, and when the election comes, everybody has hope. Everybody believes that Nigeria is going to change. So there is so much excitement. Then at the end, unfortunately, things don't play out the way it should. People get depressed, people get disappointed, and they lose trust in their leaders. And it's all because the leaders are not able to justify the expectations of people. Don't get me wrong, I think Nigerians believe in leadership. Nigerians want effective leaders. But the problem right now is how can we ensure that we have those effective leaders? The issue with Nigeria is definitely that we need to change the way we view leadership. We need to change the way we even reward leadership. Because at the end, although it's a leadership challenge, the problem is most of the time, these leaders are not able to build systems that would last. And that is one of the big issues with Nigeria. I'm based in the UK, and leaders should provide systems. There should be systems that should work. As a leader, I always say that as a leader, you should be able to reproduce yourself. You should be able to reproduce systems. But in Nigeria, unfortunately, the systems don't work. And that is always the problem. To me, it still remains a leadership issue that has led to a systematic issue, an issue with the institution. So we need to change the culture. The leadership culture is so, so important. We need to change it. How we view leadership has to change. How do we reward leadership? What do we reward? Because it is a problem. Because most of the time, people reward mediocrity. Oh, yes, now we're going for elections. It's all about party, party, party. Are we looking at the party, or are we looking at what they can really offer? So it is a problem. And even until we change the leadership from the grassroots, it's not going to change. So yes, Kike, I strongly believe that it is a leadership problem.
All right. So while I understand your submission, and many thanks for that insight, that it's an issue of leadership culture. And going back to history now, based on that submission, when you look across different administrations since 1999, since we are talking about culture, what leadership mistakes appear, repeatedly, regardless of party or personalities? What's your take on this quickly?
Thanks, Kike. And of course, as a leadership scholar, I try to be very objective. I don't try to go into the subjectiveness of the terrain. But since 1999, when we started the whole our democracy into our nice journey, there have been mistakes made, definitely, but there's also been great. Like I say, there have been improvements. You can see that during the Obasanjo's regime, there was debt relief and all that. Of course, when you moved into the Buharis and the Yar'Adua, there was so much focus on corruption. But I think the major mistakes that have been made over time is that leadership is also about perception. And most of the time, the problem is these leaders, when they come into office, they overpromise. They tell us that you're going to have electricity or 100% electricity if you elect me. And people have that mindset, and the expectations don't really match reality. And that is always an issue, because to be fair, we have fantastic people in Nigeria. We have the talent. We have people that can do good stuff. But the issue most of the time with past administrations is when they come in, they tend to overpromise.
Yeah, can you hear me? Professor Harrison? Do we have fantastic people? Do we have? I would appreciate if you can actually, mention maybe 2 or 3 names of those fantastic people you think we have in the corridor of power. Educate us, please. Who are those people?
I like that, Kike, and that's why it's real talk with you, isn't it? You have to be honest about the conversations.
Yeah. So, I'm with you.
No, I think over time we've had some people in government that have been great.
Like?
Most of them have been technocrats. We've had like someone like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Okonjo, she tried really as finance minister. She was very, of course, was very instrumental in the debt relief I was talking about. And she did well. So beyond that, we even had the late Dora Akunyili as well.
Okay.
That
Yes.
was also the information minister at
The daughter is trending right now, where she presented a portrait to the Obamas, the official portrait of them together, I think few days ago. So she's been in the news. So I must say that, yes, I agree with you with those two names. And you can see that those two names that you've just referenced are women. So it means that we need a female president in this country, Nigeria. Maybe that's when we will get to that change that we are seeking for in terms of leadership. But moving away from that, because I know that if you mention Awolowo, there are other few people that you will be struggling with, but let's not concentrate on that because of time. The saying of having stronger institutions that has been said one or two many times on this platform, and I must ask you, why do institutions in Nigeria often appear weaker than individuals? Why does leadership seems to depend so heavily on personalities rather than systems? Because earlier when you were talking, I was just looking at, I was trying to draw some, insight from what you're saying. At one point, did Nigerians begin losing confidence, not just in leaders, but in leadership itself? How do we solve this trust issue? Because I feel this trust issue is the major problem right now. What's your take? And also standards, not just trust, standards. Many have been of the perspective that trust and standards have been an issue, and we do not have that maintenance culture. What's your take on this thus far?
Good, Coach Kika, thank you very much. I totally agree with your submission that we need a female president. So soon, who knows, maybe you might be the first. But we need,
I'm ready.
Of course, I'm always
I'm ready. I can wind it up. It starts from my foundation. It starts from my home, and I've started it already. And that's why I created this platform. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it's good. No, I mean, it's so important. Of course, I'm very strong. Like you already know, I'm the director of the Center for Leadership and Empowerment. And I strongly believe that women are so instrumental in our economic development, and it's always great and it's always inspiring to see when women are using their platform to do that, and hopefully Nigeria will change. But either way, I think going back to what you had said about institutions and when did you actually change? Because at the end, the problem with Nigeria really, and is the focus is always on the individual. The focus has always been on the leader. And as a leadership expert, it's not surprising, because of even based on leadership research, is what can this leader do? What can this leader can change organization? Yes, leaders are important. But the issue is that we are too personal in that sense. We tend to adore leaders. And because we adore the leaders, that's why we get disappointed. Because the leader can't do everything. One person can't change the world. The issue here is that we need to move away from centralizing or looking at just the leaders, but what can the leaders actually do if they're not there? Look at the US, look at the UK. No matter the leader that comes in, there is a system in place. Even if Trump goes away today or somebody or Vance comes in, there is a blueprint that they have to follow. It is the role of the leaders to build systems that would last even and would thrive without them being there. Because that is always the issue. Yes, we have this person coming in. Oh, we want Peter Obi, or we want Moghalu, or we want somebody. Yes, when they come in, that's fantastic. But when they leave, what is actually going to happen? What is going to happen? So there needs to be systems in place. The judiciary needs to work. The police needs to work. The health system needs to work. And it is the onus of these people to ensure that it happens. And going back to your question about trust, the problem is, how do we get trust? Because at the end, trust is the currency of leadership. That is the truth. Without people trusting you, then you cannot lead. So how can we bring back that trust? It's by leaders doing what they actually say that they will do. Integrity is very important. As a leader, you should be able to say, if this is what I've said I'm going to do, then I will do it. And that is the reason why many of our people, our followers are like, or the people like, they have lost trust because of these people say things and they don't do it. So the major thing, how can you bring back trust, is by integrity. It's by the values. What do these people stand for? And I always tell people, at the end, the issue most of the time, even with our electorate, is just imagine if you were going for a job interview, and okay, I've done a lot of job interviews. I have interviewed a lot of people, and I'm taking up. I want to become the president of the country. I want to become the governor of the country. I won't be asking. I won't be asking you which party do you belong to. Do you belong to PDP? Do you belong to ADC, or do you belong to NDC? What I'll be asking you is, what is your track record? What is your plan? What is the vision? What can you actually do? These are the kind of questions that we need to ask these people that are going to come in. Because if this person, like, let's assume somebody says, oh, I'm going to change the economy, I'm going to change Nigeria, and it's very important in 2027 to be asking the person, what's the track record? When did you change the economy? What did you actually do when you were there? Well, I'm going to change the security system. When you have been met with crisis, what did you actually do? So these are the things that we need to do. Because at the end, the idea is these leaders have been put in those positions because we trust them. And by the time we start to relate with them, that is the only way we can get that trust coming. Because trust is very important. And the reason why we're not navigating well because we have lost trust with these people. But I'm a very optimistic person. I strongly believe that Nigeria can change. Come 2027, we have the opportunity to try to see how we can navigate this terrain. To be fair to the leaders, you can't do everything, but the issue now is in order for you to build trust, you have to be honest. Honesty is very key in building trust. But if you tell people, because the truth is, I know we are facing economic hardship. It's clear. Even in the UK I'm based in, it's not the same. I went to fuel my car a couple of days ago, and the amount I spent was ridiculous. Like, wow, what's happening here? So the economic hardship is there all over the world. But the difference in Nigeria is that it's very pronounced because of the reality and expectation is quite different. What people are promising and what people are getting is quite different. You need to be real. And even if people are facing the hardship, if they know that there is a plan, if they know that there is a future, then they would gladly face the hardship. This is not the first time people have faced hardships. There have been issues, life issues. India faced hardships. Rwanda faced hardships after the genocide. Colombia faced security challenges. So Nigeria can't be different. But the difference was they were honest about their expectations. The difference was they had a clear plan. So as a leader, in order for us to build that trust, it is a trust deficit, I would say. We have to be honest with the people. Leadership is also about perception. Be honest. Let people know what you can actually do. Promise and deliver. Have integrity. Have character. Stand for something. Have values. It's not just about charisma, but also character is very important. So these are the things. So when we can take care of that trust deficit, then Nigeria will actually definitely change.
All right, many thanks for that elaborate submission. And I think that, I must ask you this question because I really do not want you to miss your train of thoughts when you said that we are too personal with our leaders. We always expect so much. Why did we appoint them? And you said maybe we don't ask them certain questions. So you think that Nigerians have not been doing their homework asking certain questions? Because to be honest, one person, like you said, cannot change Nigeria in your own earlier submission. But the question is, one visionary leader changed Ghana. That's the reason why Ghana is more developed than Nigeria today. Many diaspora now prefer to go to Accra than to come to Nigeria. So sometimes we choose leaders based on popularity, ethnicity, religion, or emotional rather than competence and capacity. So what's your take with what I've just asked now? How costly has it been for us that we are not doing the right thing in getting the right leadership into the corridor of power? Quickly, in a few minutes, so that we can go on a quick break.
Good kick here. And I'm not against the fact that we need a visionary leader. I have a framework that I always say that the leaders we need, maybe hopefully we'll go deeper into that. I always say the leaders we need should be vested, should be visionary, should be entrepreneurial, should be resilient, should be servant leader, should be entrepreneurial, and should be distributed. But then we can break that down later. So I believe that leaders play a key role. They should be visionary. Like for Ghana, it was clear. Even for Singapore, we know that Singapore was transformed because of the visionary leader that they had as well. But what I'm saying is vision is not enough. Vision is not the only thing you need. If you have a visionary leader, that leader needs to work with other people. That leader needs to believe in values. That leader needs to have competence. That leader needs to have ethics. So it's not just about having that person and just say yes. That leader needs to develop systems. Because I always say that at the end, leaders, great leaders, can, of course, will have followers, but excellent leaders are able to develop systems. With Ghana now, you said it clearly, but now Ghana is doing well because of he put the footprint or the blueprint that would strive without him being there. So that is the issue. For us, clearly, we need to look at visionary leaders. We need to, but charisma is not enough. Cases have shown that charismatic leaders can be manipulative. So it's not just about saying, yes, I'm going to do this. And they have, because charisma is a Greek word and it comes from the gift of grace. People are very charismatic. They walk into the room and they will say things and you will believe them. So, we're going to change the world. But what is the plan? So we shouldn't just be voting based on charisma. We should also be voting based on their track record, their reputation, what they stand for, their values. Other things should go beyond. So at the end, and those people, at the end, I always say leadership is a team sport. I strongly believe in distributed leadership because, like me, I lead, of course. And right now, I'm the incoming chair of the British Academy of Management, and that is the biggest management body in the whole of the United Kingdom. But I know that although I was elected as the first Black chair, I know that I cannot do it on my own. I need people to work with me. Leadership is about, I like what you said, leadership is about impact. I strongly believe that leadership is about impact. But at the end, you need people to create that impact. You need people to create that influence. You need people to empower. So it is not one person's role here. It is a team sport. Okay.
For all your insights thus far. We'll go on a quick break to get a word from my sponsors. When I return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, many thanks for staying with me. If you are just tuning in, this is Real Talk with Kike, and I've been speaking with Professor Christian Arasen. We've been talking about a lot have been said, but Professor Arasen is a leadership researcher, governance expert, and of course, director of the Center for Leadership and Empowerment. And in the first half, we examined why Nigerians repeatedly, lose faith in leadership, the role of institutions, and of course, whether citizens are using the right standards when choosing leaders. Now I want to tune into where Nigeria is today and where it may be heading tomorrow. Let me also use this medium to actually open the phone lines for those who would like to be part of this conversation. The number to call is on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming on YouTube now on Real Talk with Kike, and of course on Instagram page, on Facebook page, Real Talk with Kike, and of course on Silverbird Facebook as well. So many thanks for those who would like to be part of this conversation by lending your voice on issues that affect us all. So to Professor Harrison, again, thank you so much for all that you have shared thus far. But there's this reality question I must bring to fore quickly. What are we experiencing right now from your own lenses? Because today, Nigerians are facing economic hardship. You might be in Manchester, but you are hearing the issues of insecurity and the growing uncertainty and all of that. So how much of what we are experiencing is a leadership problem, and how much is the consequences of years of accumulated policy failure or failures? Because, it's the truth. What's your take on this?
Well, thanks very much, Kike. Don't worry, I'm still in tune what happens in Nigeria. So although I'm in Greater Manchester, but of course we tend to still tune in to what happens in Nigeria. And like you rightly said, yes, we are really experiencing a lot of hardship, economic hardship, as we would see. And you can see with the currency volatility, and it's quite difficult, to be fair. But to be fair to Nigeria, it's like I said initially, it's not just Nigeria that is facing this. The whole world is facing this issue. But I think the issue with Nigeria is when issues like this happen, it's about what are the measures in place to ensure that the citizens don't feel that strong effect of these kind of pains that everybody is facing. In the UK, we are having those issues. In the US, we're having those issues. But what are those measures that you can put? So at the end, it is also a leadership issue because this hardship would happen, economic hardship would happen. But as a leader, you can't stop the pandemic, you can't stop the wars, but you can alleviate the pains that people would have. There would always be economic reforms. We know about the fuel subsidy that happened. To be fair, this is something that we know as economists. I'm not an economist, but people talk about, we need to remove the subsidy. Yes, it was removed, and it was the best thing to do. But in doing that, the citizens are not really concerned about long term, they're thinking of the short term. So what are the short term measures to ensure that people don't feel all this? So that is very important. But look, when you go into another big thing that we are experiencing is insecurity. Yes, you said it rightly. It is a big challenge. And it's something that over the years, the past administrations could have done better with the banditry, with the kidnapping, with different conflicts. So how do we address this issue as well? It's something that an effective leader, effective leadership would try to do. This is something that happened in Colombia years ago when they had this cartel, drug trafficking. So insecurity would happen. But at the end, it's about how can we do this? How can we solve these issues? It's not just about the military just jumping into the forest and trying to get the kidnappers away, but education is very important. Sharing military intelligence is very important. Trying to be honest with your people is also very important. So yes, many of these challenges that we are facing, although some of them, to be fair to the leadership of the country, are things that are beyond their control. But it is how do you handle crisis when it happens? I have a framework on crisis leadership. How do leaders lead during the times of crisis? What are those competencies you need to have in order for you to react and address crisis? Because crisis would always happen. So most of the things that we are facing, I would say it is more of a cost of living leadership test, I would say, because there are cost of living issues, but it is a leadership test for our nation as well. And that's something that administrations would have tried to do, and the current one is trying their best as well. But we need, like I've said from the beginning, is the culture that is the issue. The leadership culture is a big thing. We need to change because it's not about who is there. It's not about PDP, APC, MDC. It's about what do we expect from our leaders? What do we reward? How do we reward leadership? Because the politics, really, politics is a reflection of your values. And if people reward party, we are rewarding tribalism, then your leaders would reflect that. But when we start to call for integrity, when we start to call for values, then leaders would now believe that those are the things that count. So that is very, very important.
All right, I hear you. Many thanks. But the 2027 conversation now, I think is just something that we should bring to fore because it's just around the corner. This conversation is not just with all that you have shared thus far. It's not about APC. It's not about PDP or Labour Party or ADC, MPC. And this, all these parties, they look alike. There's no ideology driving them. Today you can hear one person is in this party and another one. But I've lost my train of thought right now. Okay, individuals, candidates now, you've emphasized that it's not about the leadership culture as well. What shapes the nation and the standards of the citizen also must be brought to fore in terms of the demands if they want a different future. But I must ask you, political realignments are already underway. Parties are repositioning itself. Coalition are forming. Yet, many Nigerians seem skeptical of every option available. Why are Nigerians or why are citizens increasingly questioning all political alternatives? beyond the politicians. What's your take on this?
Good, Kike. And I like what you've said about we're being very cynical about it, isn't it? Because at the end, it happens every time there's an election. You tend to see measures, people try to realign. You see parties transforming from AD, APC. We have seen it. We have seen so much of that. And at the end, the issue is not just about those political alignments or those strategic repositioning, as I would say, but it's about why are they really doing it? What is the reason for this alignment? Is it because of they just want to win? I just want to be there? Or is it because they have a vision or they have a mission for the country? And I think that is why over time, people have lost faith in those political realignments because they have seen those political realignments coming and they have noticed that it has not led to any change at the moment. And I think that is, and the truth about it is, one of the great key reasons why people have lost trust in those political realignments because of our expectations around leadership has changed. You're doing a great job at the moment. You're telling us the things that happen in Ghana. You're telling us the things that happen. So the media is also part of one of the reasons. It's not a bad thing, but you're telling us what is happening. So by telling people what is happening in other countries, Nigerians are not asking, if it can happen in Ghana, why is it not happening in Nigeria? If UK can have 100% electricity, why is it that every administration that comes in has not been able to solve that problem? If I'm able to get a good standard of living in Canada, why can't we do it in Nigeria? So you can see that the expectations have changed. That's why we don't even believe that these things. So people have lost hope because of the expectations have increased. People want more. But like I said initially, the key reason is that for many people, they also feel like this idea of fairness. Most of the time, people also believe that when people think that there is the principle of fairness is not being adhered to, then people will be like, okay, yes, they have merged, but what do I stand to gain from this? How is it going to benefit me? It's the same people again that are going to be in power and the same people that will get the resources. So all these things are things that, so even when the government tries, the government needs to be able, and those sports parties that realign, they need to be able to tell people that we're not just realigning for ourselves, we are realigning because it's going to be beneficial for you. It's not just about corruption here. It's about trying to treat people equally. Equality is key. Inclusion is important. So yes, people are going to merge. We have seen it. We have seen the mergers. But it is the onus rests on them right now to be able to build that trust, to be able to convince people that they're going to be fair. They're doing it because they have a vision and a mission and a motto that they're going to adhere to. They're also going to be honest about it and give us a plan, a real plan, a plan that we can really adhere to. That even if we are suffering, we are happy. We are laughing, we are suffering and laughing because we know that yes, we're going to achieve that. But when there is no credible plan, then people are not going to be happy. And I think that is one of the big issues with every country, not even Nigeria.
All right, many thanks for that submission right there. I think we should just wrap up this conversation to one because is Nigeria primarily suffering from a leadership crisis, a followership crisis, or an institutional crisis? Because with all that you have shared thus far, we must, wrap it into one. Or which of these, of those is the most dangerous one from your own perspective? If you can answer this in the next 1 minute or two, so that I can actually, ask you my last question before we wrap up the show.
Good. Oh wow, just 1 minute to say that? That's too much. We need more time for that. But I would say we are suffering from the three, if I have to say that. I think, but there was one that is more important. I think those three are vital. But like I said initially, I think it's more of an institutional crisis compared to the other two. We have a leadership crisis, clearly, and it's so important that we have effective leaders. The leaders we have had over the years have not been able to hit the milestones that we want. Like I've said, for me, leaders have to be visionary. It's very important. Leaders have to be entrepreneurial. Leaders have to be servant leaders. They need to serve other people. Because you don't go there because you want to become the president or want to become the governor. You're going there to serve. Leadership is service. So, but we've not had leaders over the years that have done that. We need leaders that also are distributed, that also empower people. So it's a leadership challenge, clearly.
All right.
For the followership crisis, there is also an issue. But going back, I know you want to stop me, Kike, but let me just say this. The crisis is really the institutional one. Because at the end, even if you have the leaders should be able to build the systems. And at the moment, we don't have systems that work. Leadership should go beyond just one person. We should build systems in place. And until we're able to develop those institutions, Nigeria will struggle. So I think that is the big issue still remains the institutional crisis, I would say.
All right, many thanks, many thanks. I agree with you on your perspective, and I feel that systems and infrastructure are the major challenge that we have right now in our hands. But you know what? My last question to you right now, because of time, because we must move to the last segment of the show, is if you have just one message for Nigerians as we begin looking forward to 2027, we must hear from you, from someone in diaspora and somebody who is right here beside us next door. What should we, because you said something earlier, we are not asking the right question. So let me throw it back to you. What should we demand from any of these candidates in the corridor of power seeking to lead us for another 4 years or 8 years? What's your take on this quickly?
Thank you. And it's very important because of course in 2027 we have to take control of our leadership. It is the followers will have to change and ask for the leaders that are going to take us to the next phase. For us, like I said initially, one thing we need to ask when we go to the polling booth in 2027, we should be asking ourselves, do they have the track record? Do they fit the fact? Are they visionary? Do they have values? Do they have character? Do they have competence? We should be looking at all that. What vision do they have for the country? What kind of values? What do they represent? What's their character? And can they get the work done? That is very important. We shouldn't be looking at just the short-term benefits. We should be looking at long-term. If we are able to do that, then you see that the leadership culture will change in our nation. Like I said, I'm very optimistic. We can develop leadership. Leadership can start with us. And that's one of the things I do. I'm very keen on seeing how we can get the next generation of leaders. But yes, going forward, we need to ensure that we have leaders that are visionary, leaders that have character, leaders that will be ethical, and leaders that will be competent. And that is how Nigeria will change in 2027.
All right, many thanks, Professor Harrison, for all that you have shared thus far, and of course, helping us examine one of the most important conversations facing Nigeria today. And I hope that today I've shown us all, for those who are watching us right now, that leadership is not just about occupying office, it's about earning trust. And thank you so much for emphasizing on all of that. And on this note, before I move to the last segment of the show, from my own perspective, based on all that have been shared, I feel that leadership shapes institutions, and institutions shapes nation, and ultimately citizens shape leadership. Perhaps the future Nigeria gets into, or the future Nigerian should depend on, it should be about standards, because Nigerians choose to accept or reject whatever thing that is being thrown at us right now. But election can change governance or change government, but they do not automatically change leadership culture, and that requires something deeper. And it requires citizens who also ask better questions, demand higher standards, and of course refuse to confuse popularity with capacity. And because nations rarely rise above the quality of leadership that they tolerate. And I think that's my takeaway from all the conversation that has been shared thus far. On this note, this is where we move to the last segment of the show, because this is where I have an opinion as a host. And moving to the last segment of the show, the only trending story I'll be touching on right now is about the federal government that begins mass trial of suspected, terrorists in Abuja. And when I saw this story, sometimes one of the fundamental challenges, I don't like to use the word problems, in our society is our justice system. It has been a recurring, challenge for decades. And if we are truly honest with ourselves, it is one of the reasons insecurity continues to thrive. I'm looking at the news that the federal government, has commenced the mass trial of over 1,000 suspected terrorists at the Federal High Court in Abuja. And the Attorney General of the Federation is leading the prosecution, while dozens of suspects are being tried before multiple judges over 4 days period. On the surface, this appears commendable, but justice must be served. However, it also, raises serious questions about how long it takes us to deal with terrorism cases in Nigeria. Some people will rightly say these individuals are only suspects and have not yet been found guilty. I agree completely. Every accused person deserves a fair trial, but once guilty is established beyond reasonable doubt, justice must be swift. It must be firm. It must be decisive. Terrorism is not ordinary crime. It's the direct attack on the nation, on innocent citizens, on the future of this country, Nigeria. A retired Major General adopted last month in Katsina had been killed. The wife was just rescued, I think, yesterday or so. And perhaps that terrorist behind, letting her loose. These are Nigerians that have rank and name. What about those who are helpless? Are ordinary masses? Should their lives go in vain is the question I'm asking in pain. What concerns me the most is that many of these terrorists adopting our people today often demand the release of their members from Nigerian prisons. We heard similar demand in recent kidnappings involving school children. What does that tell us? It tells us that there are individuals already in custody who are connected to these criminal networks, however we want to look at it. The longer justice drags on, the weaker the deterrent effect becomes. A nation cannot win a war against terrorism with endless delays, endless negotiation, and endless reintegration programs for hardened killers. If anyone is found guilty of murdering innocent Nigerians, orchestrating terrorism, or participating in mass adoption, the law should take its full course without hesitation. Why do we have a justice system if not to protect our society and punish those who seek to destroy it? We cannot continue spending public funds in housing, in feeding, and rehabilitating people who have declared war against the nation. These are the basis for those who say they require reintegration of killers. English. Abi kan ṣe. Justice delayed is justice weakened. And when justice is weakened, insecurity grows stronger. What else do I want to say to this? Is there something wrong with us as a people? Until certain things happen to us directly, we will not understand the repercussion of the situation at hand. Professor Harrison, let me come to you. What's your take on this?
Thank you very much, Kike. I think it's of course it's sad what you've alluded to already, and it's not the best. I think it's key that we are honest with how we do things, and it still calls back to the same thing about having systems in place. Because when the systems are not clear and they don't reflect and are not very fair, then these are the kind of things that happen. We should not reward negative things. It's important that it's clear that things should be better. I know with terrorism, we're facing a lot about the terrorism in Abuja, like you rightly pointed out, the trials and all that. It's sad. But yes, as a government, the rule of law is important. And that's why the rule of law should be independent. It should go beyond one person. The judiciary should be fair. It's still the same thing about the leaders in having systems in place whereby these systems can work without you. And unfortunately, that is not what you tend to see in many countries, including Nigeria as well. So it's, of course, Kike, it's a very sad one. And I really feel the pain and your submission at the moment. But we need to do better as a nation.
All right, many thanks again for being on the platform today, and of course lending your voice on issues that affect us all. This is where I draw the curtains of the show till I come your way next week. Remain safe and be kind to one another. My name remains Kikelomo Atanda-Owo Abati. Bye now.
Take care.